Oh, there you go.
There it was, too. Right on cue.
On this episode of Northwest Outdoors, continue the adventure into British Columbia in Part 2 at Farewell Harbour Resort. Go fishing for black bass. Visit historic Telegraph Cove. And go after Chinook salmon.
Oh, wonderful.
Plus, learn a great recipe for delicious salmon quesadillas.
Cheese is oozing out of there.
Right.
Funding for Northwest Outdoors is made possible in part by Kershaw Knives of Portland, Oregon, makers of precision tools and cutlery. Kershaw Knives strongly supports outdoor programming as well as responsible outdoor activities throughout the Pacific Northwest. And by Subaru, engineered and designed for all types of activities in the great outdoors. Subaru believes that enjoyment of the Pacific Northwest should be available to everyone. And by Energy Northwest, providing electricity for the Pacific Northwest today and for our future. You too can help provide electricity for our future by reducing your use of electricity today. Remember, conserve whenever possible. And by Alltrek.com. Alltrek provides high-performance clothing and gear for every outdoor experience, including paddling, camping, hiking, climbing, and more. Information can be found online at Alltrek.com.
This is Farewell Harbour Resort, located on Barry Island in the northwestern section of Canada's British Columbia. Overlooking Blackfish Sound, Farewell Harbour was designed as a guest lodge because it sits in the middle of world-class salmon, halibut, fresh and saltwater fly fishing. On the last Northwest Outdoors, fishing host Hobart Mans flew in by float plane from Seattle's Lake Washington. His goal? To fly fish a few of the hundreds of local streams and inlets that house sea-run cutthroat trout and dolly varden.
Here, cut. Got another one of those beautiful cutthroats on. I had seen this one rise about twice straight across from me, and we got the third cast into it, and he jumped on it. He's not going to be the monster fish, but there's no such thing as an ugly fish up here. Come on, fish, get over here. Oh, he's got great color. Just absolute spectacular color. Now, let's see if I can get him over here. Oh, come on. I'm gonna see if I can get him over here. Now, I'm gonna turn you loose.
While in the area, there was opportunity to visit the local Indian village of Alert Bay and see the world's tallest totem pole at 173 feet. The newly constructed longhouse and the totems of the native Namgi burial grounds also provided a chance to see the native artwork up close. Alert Bay is a fishing village on Vancouver Island, just a short boat ride from Farewell Harbour. There, time stands still, but the community has opened its doors recently to tourists, like the Umista Cultural Center, which invites visitors to take a peek into the local culture and history.
Well, now there's one. Oh, there was one.
We continue the adventure at Farewell Harbour in this show with Part 2 in Canada's BC. We join Hobart and resort guide Glenn Speed on the water fishing for black bass.
It's a black bass.
Fishing the rocky outcrops of these islands can be challenging. Tide changes has a lot to do with success. These sturdy fish will weigh in anywhere from a pound to 5 pounds and can be quite fun to catch. It is also a favorite spot for the bald eagles in the area.
We now have our first bass coming in, first black bass. You got him right on the edge of the wall, huh? Ooh, yeah, they're not that deep. I just had one flash at me, 15, 20, 30 feet down.
That's a beautiful fish.
He is too.
He's got some scars on him here too, like a lingcod grabbed them. See the little marks right there, and the fins all. Something grabbed a hold of him. And that was probably only about 10 feet deep, right along the kelp bed there. And if those bass are there, they generally come right out of that kelp and hit it real hard.
What we've been looking for. That's one of the neat things about fishing out here is the diversity. You never know what that next fish is going to be. We're fly fishing and we're getting bass from 1 to 3 to 4 pounds, just kind of scooting along the edge of this shoreline. And these bass give you quite a little tussle initially. Let's see if I can get this one in here. Get a hold of that leader and fly. See if I can bring him up here and we'll take that bug out of him. There he is. This bass would be just like catching a bass in fresh water. He's got a nice little row of teeth in there, but we're going to tip it back and take that fly out. This orange Clouser style fly, same sort of thing we've been using on the bottom all day, albeit this little 1 pound bass is not very big. He's got some quills along the back of him here that will really hurt you if you stick your fingers. Those quills can be kind of nasty. Neat part about fishing out here, you never know what the next fish is going to be, and you can take them with almost any venue. Flies, lures, doesn't really matter. Right here. Come on, baby. Well, you're right where you belong. Got the fly down there. Everything is perfect. Take it, take it, take it, take it, take it. Piece of kelp. They're still in there.
Oh, there you go.
There it was, too. Right on cue.
Look at that spinning the line
Oh,
here.
yeah.
That's a scrappy one.
Glenn just dropped that lure in there and it went bam. That is he's putting up.
Yeah, I think he
muscle.
might. I have a funny feeling he's
took
wrapped
into the
around the kelp. Yeah. Try giving him a little slack. See if he comes out. I don't know if I'm going to get this back or not. There we go. Maybe. Maybe not.
Oh, yes. Woo! And there he is. You can see him way down in the water. That's a dandy. It's probably 2.5, 3 pounds. But when they hit, they just want it. Just to show the diversity of what's going on, Glenn's using a spinning rod with a 6, 8 pound test line and a small buzz bomb lure. And I've got an orange Clouser type fly, a beadhead fly. And we've both got a double on here. These fish have been fiddling around a little bit. You've got yours up. He is how big? Let's take a look at that fish.
It looks like we got
See
some.
if we can get them both here side by side. We'll measure them before they start fiddling around with us. Now there's 2 peas in a pod. How else could you do it? One on a fly, one on a lure. And that fish inhaled that fly. I mean, he ate it. It's gone.
We got a couple of bookends here.
Ah, and my fly's gone too.
Oh, did you take your fly?
Yep,
I got
he
it.
cleaned me. Why don't you slide us back up there and we'll make another pass through there and see if we can get a couple more of those bass. Those are fun. Coming down through there, you put us right on the wall and right where the fish were and bam, bam. The strike on those bass is probably as good as anything you
I
could
think
put
so
on.
too. Yeah, they're a heck of a fish.
Yeah, they really are.
We will continue with some fantastic fishing on the coast of Canada's British Columbia as Hobart goes Chinook salmon fishing.
This is a Chinook and not a coho. But he's keeping his head down, and now he doesn't like that reel.
But first,
yeah.
here's a new segment on Northwest Outdoors, Collector Corner. Here are a few valuable lures to look for when you want something unique.
There's a little kid in everybody. When I started as a youngster going to the hardware store with 25 cents to buy tackle, that would get me home with a box of Pfluger hooks, some leader, and hopefully one or two little cheap Hort Gibbonson bass plugs for 25 cents in 1940. Nobody can remember that far back but me. At any rate, some of the toys I didn't have in those days I've acquired through the years, one fashion or another, and I've always been enamored with ones that do things. I've always thought that if it did something, it would help catch the fish. Well, everybody made a lure that did something. If you'll notice here, this creek chub jigger is interesting. You'll see the big scoop on the belly. Well, that comes completely through the lure. It would grab water and spray it up above it. Sometimes they're called jiggers, sometimes they're called gliders, but they would take the water and spray it out the hole on the top. That would attract fish. These crazy legs are another lure with mechanical innovations that intrigue me, always have. They're not necessarily that old. I've got one here out of the box, and if you'll notice, as I turn the propeller, the legs move. So as you're pulling this through the water, the propeller activates the legs, give the lure a lot more action in the water, hopefully attracting more fish. So Crazy Legs is one of my favorites. Along came a man who probably got himself hooked several times, and he invented a thing called the fincheroo. Remember how many times you'd reach down to take a plug out of a fish's mouth and you would impale yourself? Well, the fincheroo features a wonderful hole in the center of the plug in which you could insert your finger, lifting both the fish and the plug, and remove the hooks without impaling yourself. Didn't sell well, but it sure is fun to have a fincheroo. Another plug with mechanical activity, and I do like frogs. As you jerk this frog through the water, his legs went in and out, much looking like the real frog. So if you went this one in the water, you're likely to catch any old fish that was looking for Mr. Frog. Up front, you'll see a Fishmaster. And the Fishmaster does not appear to have any hooks. But if you were to feel a strike or a fish hit it and you jerk the line, pulling the line would activate two spring-loaded hooks inside which pop out into the fish's mouth. So it's coming through the water with no hooks. The fish thinks he's safe, he grabs it, you jerk, you caught the fish. This other lure that you'll see here is called a Florida Shiner, and what makes it so unique and collectible is the fact that it's considered artwork. The scales were hand-painted and hand-sprayed. They're made in limited edition in the early 1930s, very scarce, very hard to find intact. The Tadpolly box and the Tadpolly lure by Hedden are very, very collectible. This one comes back before 1920. It's sold in that time for about 95 cents, and its value today is around $500, if you could believe that. And again, I cannot stress how much good books and good information will help you become a knowledgeable collector. It's a lot of fun for me, and I hope it becomes fun for you.
Back on Berry Island and Farewell Harbor, the tranquil bay gives way to a rainstorm. That didn't prevent a chance to take a quick tour of the historic Telegraph Cove. At the turn of the century, this area was first developed as a telegraph outpost for local settlers. In the 1920s, it was a place to salt the huge commercial fish catches of that time. It then turned into a sawmill. Now Telegraph Cove is run by the Graham family and has turned into a tourist destination on Vancouver Island. Refurbished maritime buildings stand as time capsules to the past and now are rented out to visitors to the area. With local artwork and wildlife tours that are available, the quaint setting of Telegraph Cove is worth the visit.
There's a lot of people speak to us about really Telegraph Cove as to what sort of a theme it is. Well, it is like any small town that was built along the coast. As people needed a house, they built it. As their family grew, they made additions onto it. And there's all different styles in Telegraph Cove, and I think that is what is appealing to the people that come here. There is no set design to any like the village. Everything is different. As you walk around and you see all the boardwalk and the docks and all of that, it's a huge amount of work to maintain it and look after it. And fortunately, we were loggers, and so we knew all about moving heavy timbers and how to do a lot of this stuff. And so we've just, over the years, reconstructed every house here. The outside facade of them looks the same, and there are some on pilings, but the inside we tried to make as comfortable and as enjoyable for our guests as possible.
Voted as one of the best towns in Canada to visit by Canadian travel writers, places like Telegraph Cove and Farewell Harbour provide a nice retreat from the rush hour crowd. One thing to remember though in this part of the country, don't forget your rain gear. As the day progressed, the rain retreated to other unknown parts, so it was time to work the water. Hobart and guide Glenn Speed take advantage of the rising tide change. Speed is also particular about the way he ties up his herring for bait.
Glenn, show me what you're going to do before we hopefully catch a fish.
Okay, well, what we do is start with a whole herring. I'll take that knife and cut it at an angle, scoop out the inside, take my single hooks, run that back hook through the top, stick the top hook right through the center, right along the backbone, and I like to tuck this hook as far back here towards the tail as I can. Just set that right in there, bury it right in there. And Hobart, you know, everybody, there's lots of different variations of how people thread those hooks in there, but that's the one I prefer.
Oh, that did not take long. Did not take long. There's an answer to what's going on out here this morning, and the answer is fresh bait. Oh, that's a silver. He's on the surface. It's not going anyplace. It's a little silver, early fish for up here. I don't think we're going to be able to keep this one. You can tell when they stay on the surface like this that they're probably going to be a silver rather than a Chinook. He hasn't made any attempt to do a deep dive. Any other time he'd be a real nice fish. Oh, look at crazy fish. Crazy fish. I thought he was going to come in here and let us turn him loose relatively easy, but no, he's out there saying, I want to play. And he's been in the air, I don't know how much already. See if we can catch up with him here. Now he's coming around. Get him up here where we can get at him, Glenn. Get those hooks out of him before he gets tired. But they are just, oh, beautiful in the water. There,
Oh.
He's free.
Nice release.
Early, clean, barbless hooks pulled out. That's a good thing.
The day didn't provide any more catching opportunities, so it was time to head back to the lodge, where there's always hope for the morning.
We've got one out there someplace, sports fans. We came up here to get Chinook. Came out this morning with that hope in mind. We're using single action reels. Now I know that if we're reeling close to us, we're going to hope this is a Chinook and not a coho. But he's keeping his head down, and now he doesn't like that reel. Oh yeah. He put a little head snap to that. Oh yeah. Look at that baby run. Run, run. Crazy. Crazy fish. We got enough line to do this all day. Look at that fish. Oh. Oh, slow down. That's a serious run, a serious run. And all I've done is hold on and say, good morning, fish. Oh, I may have to sing that song again. I said the little,
Acting like a nice fish.
oh, it is. There's no doubt about it. It's a nice fish. That, I think that's maybe the longest run I've ever had a Chinook put on. You want to talk about a thrill. A thrill. Beautiful morning, great sun. Single action reels on these long rods. It's just like fly fishing. I mean, literally, that's what we've got here. 20-pound test line. You can't really horse them. Oh, go. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Catch up with him. Catch up. Oh, there he is. They change directions and go, 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 go. Oh, yes. This is just killer. We got to get back to the palm. I don't want to drop it. Look at this little monster coming up.
Where do you guys want me to net it?
Yes, we want to net.
Yeah,
We
go
want
to the front.
We want to bag him as quickly as we can. He's coming your way. We got him. Beautiful. Oh, wonderful. What we came to Farewell Harbor for, we got one killer spring Chinook.
Well done, Hobart.
Yeah,
You got one.
We got him. That's probably the nicest first run I've ever had of a Chinook. He had 200, 250 yards of line on.
Oh yeah, I was getting worried you were going to see Dacron.
He was smoking, just smoking. Well, let's put him in the box and go see if we can find another one.
You bet.
We end this show with a visit to the Seafood School in Astoria, Oregon. Here's a great recipe for making salmon quesadillas.
Eric Jenkins of the Astoria Seafood Consumer Center is going to show us a new recipe this afternoon called salmon quesadilla.
And we're going to use belly meat today.
And that's a piece of salmon that you really always wonder what to do. It either cooks faster than the fillets, or you have to smoke it, or some other secondary situation. So this might be a great recipe for the...
Very moist and flavorful part of the salmon. It's one of my favorites.
And me too.
Yeah. So basically what we're going to do is just cut it up into bite-sized chunks. Okay.
Little pieces. Salmon belly meat, you got about a dozen chunks there.
Yeah, and then I have a bowl of some seasoned flour, seasoned with salt and pepper. And we're going to add them to the seasoned flour and just lightly flour them. Yeah. And we're going to cook it at a medium-high heat for just a few minutes till they turn a little brown.
Yeah, those pieces don't take long to cook, probably a minute and a half, 2 minutes on the side.
It's always a good idea to add your fish to a hot pan once the oil has become hot.
Right.
It helps prevent sticking, and it always put a nice brown.
Seals the flavors.
Seals the flavor. That's right.
Turn them over now, Eric.
Yeah, I think they're ready, Hobart.
Okay.
We'll turn them all over here. They cook up pretty fast, so.
And the other thing about that belly meat is it's got a lot higher fat content, a little richer flavor. It's really very, very good.
I'll have you hand me that tortilla.
Coming up.
And this pan is hot. We're gonna add just the tortilla straight into the pan with nothing in it. And I have some smoked cheddar cheese here. We're gonna sprinkle that all over. Smoked Tillamook cheddar, so
There
it's
you
from
go.
Oregon.
That's a local product, and we're proud of it.
I have some roasted red bell pepper here. And if you wanna, you can sprinkle in some green onions there.
We can do that. Couple of fingerfuls there, or handfuls.
With this dish, if you wanted more peppers or green chilies or just about anything you like, you could add to this. The cheese really makes it. We're going to take the salmon pieces and we're going to distribute them along 1/2 of this tortilla here.
See that cheese is starting to melt already around
it. It is, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Do you like hot sauce, Hobart?
I like the flavor. I don't like the heat, so let's do it gently.
Okay, we'll just sprinkle a little of that in there. And then what we do is just grab the tortilla and flip it over. And press it down gently.
Let it cook for a little bit more?
No, it's basically done now. We're going to cut it up now.
We're ready.
What I usually do is I cut it in half first.
Yep.
and then half again.
Ooh, looking yummy.
You see the cheese is oozing out of there?
Right. Salmon quesadilla, and you're making that with fresh belly meat salmon, a very inexpensive cut, and it's a really fast way to make a great presentation.
Go online to northwestoutdoors.org to learn everything about this episode 1506. On the next Northwest Outdoors, head to the Olympic Peninsula and hike the 9-mile Ozette Loop.
So it's now about an hour after the actual low tide here at Cape Alava. All these offshore islands and sea stacks are wildlife refuges. They fall under the jurisdiction of the Park Service and the Fish and Wildlife Service.
Funding for Northwest Outdoors is made possible in part by Kershaw Knives of Portland, Oregon, makers of precision tools and cutlery. Kershaw Knives strongly supports outdoor programming as well as responsible outdoor activities throughout the Pacific Northwest. And by Subaru, engineered and designed for all types of activities in the great outdoors. Subaru believes that enjoyment of the Pacific Northwest should be available to everyone. The growth of the Pacific Northwest the past few years and the increased demand for electricity is important to all of us. We at Energy Northwest are doing our best to support this demand by producing safe, reliable electrical power today and for our future. And by alltrek.com. Alltrek provides high-performance clothing and gear for every outdoor experience, including paddling, camping, hiking, climbing, and more. Information can be found online at alltrek.com.